morning, because it's morning now, Sunday morning. I think we can finish this graph up. Just a few finishing touches. So noticed over here on the x-axis we have showing more range than we need to, so we can change that. So I'm going to click on the axis and then right click to format axis, and under scale we can put a maximum of 1.0 right there. That stretches our data out, does a couple of things. It stretches our data out a little bit, and this minor division is on the 10th molar, and that might help us out when we show an estimation of the isotonic solution at 0.0% mass change. So let's do that. So I think it would be handy to draw a dotted line, as I showed you on this one. I'm going to draw that dotted line. And to do that, go to Insert Picture and Shape. And I'll just select a line here. And I'm going to try to put my pointer right on the intersection of the x-axis and the graph line, and then I'm going to bring it straight as I possibly can down here. That looks pretty good. So just a click and drag. Now I'm going to format it so you can see that it's highlighted, so not highlighted, highlighted. Right click, format shape. So what should we do? The line, let's make it black, and weight and arrows. And here's where we get the dashes under weight and arrows. So maybe just dashes like that. Looks good, and 2 points heavy enough, I think. So that's good. Okay. So there's our line. And then all we have left to do is these two text boxes. So we can finish this up, and we can put this text box in. I figured out what I wanted to do with this thing. So this is Excel's not seeing that as a text box, and I was running around trying to find format text box. But if I right click on it, format Trendline label, that's what that is. So we can format Trendline label, and I was saying before, I don't like seeing the grid lines behind it. So fill, I'm going to put like a white fill in there, and you can see that now it's got a white background that stands out in front of the grid line, which I kind of like better. And we can even do a line, so maybe like a gray line like this, and that's what it looks like. Now I'm going to position it somewhere around, close by the curve, and I thought maybe I would put an arrow, so I still have my shapes menu up. If not, you can go to Format Shapes again. So I'm just going to draw an arrow like that, and I think I'll touch it up so that it touches the text box. That looks pretty good. Again, I think I'll format the arrow. So click on it and right click Format Shape, and I'm just going to make it black. Bam. Otherwise, I think it's pretty good. Maybe it's a little heavy. So again, Format Shape, weight and arrows. Maybe knock it down to 1.5. What does that look like? Yeah, a little neater. Okay. Now, when I go to insert here, I don't have much to work with. And what I want to do is insert a text box. And to be honest with you, I couldn't find anywhere to do that here. I'm going to close this shapes menu. But if I go back to the data, the source data over here, this sheet, I get a whole different text box, or insert menu. Insert, look at all these insert options. So I'm going to insert text box. And then all I'm going to do is copy and paste it over to the map. Or it's not a map, it's a graph. It's early in the morning, sorry. So I'm just going to draw a text box and start typing. So what I want with this is I'm going to do another one of those little arrows, and I'm going to show that that dotted line we drew is an estimation of our osmolarity. So I'm going to type the words estimation of isotonic solution, and it was 0.057, and if you remember right here, we got that number by plugging in y equals 0 to the equation of the linear regression line, and that's m for molar. Okay, now let's sort of make it a little neater this way. Perhaps put that on a different line. I'm going to select all, and I'm going to center it, just because maybe that looks better. Maybe that's nice. Doesn't need to be that deep, so again, I'm just touching up the size. That looks pretty handy. Now I'm going to highlight it, and I'm going to copy it, so Control C or right click copy, and over to our chart, and I'm just going to paste it. Oh, not working. Maybe I didn't actually copy it. Screencast data. So right click copy over to the chart, right click, don't have a paste, edit. Interesting, this worked for me before. Cut maybe, so I cut it out and I paste it in. Okay, whatever works. Copy didn't work, but cut worked. So whatever floats your boat, Excel. Just going to put it there. It's already got a nice white background, so again the grid lines don't show through. Bring up that picture shape menu again, grab an arrow, and I think I'll just point an arrow down to where that line crosses our x-axis, right about there. That looks good. I'm going to again touch up the end of it just a little bit. Don't love that. Something like that. Enough. Right click, format shape. We'll match it with that other one, so make it black. And I think I selected a 1.5 weight. So there we go. There we go. I think that's our graph. I think we're done. Here we're done. That's a pretty neat and tidy graph. Now, I have to say this. I'm using this lab and this data to teach you about linear regression and R squared and R. So you remember from the other video that the R value 0.082 is describing how linear our data is. So the closer it gets to 1.0 or negative 1.0, the more linear the data. This data, as you can tell, is slightly linear. So the data is kind of spread out around that line. The R squared value is meant to communicate the percentage of the change in Y that can be attributed to X. So this is the R squared is 68%. So only 68% of the change in Y, that is the change in percentage mass, can be attributed to our change in the molarity of our solutions. So that's not a high predictor. Long story short, this data doesn't appear too linear. If you look at it, check it out, we're 95% sure that the percentage change in mass in a 0.0 molar solution lies in this range, and yet our line doesn't even go into that range. So I'm not super confident about this line being the be-all end-all. But this has allowed me to get you doing a linear regression and calculating R squared and R and teaching you what those values mean. And the questions that you're going to answer for this lab, and one of them has to do with the statistical, commenting on our conclusion, which is potato tissue has an osmolarity of 0.057 molar. So you're going to comment on the strength of that conclusion based on the statistical tests that we performed. I don't know how strong I am on that conclusion. I don't want to keep you here, but if you look at, like if we were to put a line on this, can I do that quickly? Let's put a line on it. Oh, no, let's undo. I'll show you this in class. But long story short, look at these data points. Those first three data points are pretty linear, and that would put our line crossing the x-axis a little bit over here, so more like 0.15 molar. That might be a better way of doing this. If this was your IA, we would not use this linear regression to estimate our osmolarity. I think we would put a line on that and drop the line over here and say 0.15 molar. Anyway, what can I say? You have learned how to do a graph. You've hopefully been able to practice and produce this graph in Excel, and you've learned how to do a linear regression and how to calculate R squared and R. And hopefully a lot of those skills you'll be able to apply to your own data collection, your own IA, and maybe future labs that we do in the course. So that'll be good. Anyway, thanks for watching all this. Hope it was helpful, and see you tomorrow morning. Cheers.